Every single night on Mars, the temperature drops to around -80 degrees Celsius. Not occasionally, not in winter. Every night. And on some nights, near the poles, it reaches -125. The kind of cold that would freeze the lubricants in a mechanical joint, crack electronics, and drain a battery to nothing in hours. Perseverance has survived over 1,000 of these nights, not by accident, not by luck, but because a team of engineers on Earth anticipated every single one of them and built a machine that keeps itself alive long enough to do something no rover has ever done before. This is the story of how Mars is not a friendly place to send a robot. It's cold. Its atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide and about 1% as dense as Earth's, thin enough to be useless for breathing, thick enough to create dust storms that can engulf the entire planet for months. Its surface is bombarded by ultraviolet radiation that would destroy unprotected electronics over time. The distance from Earth means that even a radio signal, traveling at the speed of light, takes between 3 and 22 minutes to arrive, making real-time control impossible and every decision time-critical. And yet NASA has landed 9 spacecraft on the Martian surface, 6 of them rovers, each one more capable than the last. Perseverance, which landed on February 18th, 2021, in a crater called Jezero, once an ancient lake, is the most sophisticated Mars rover ever built. It weighs about 1,025 kilograms. It carries 19 cameras, 2 microphones, and 7 scientific instruments. It produced oxygen from the Martian atmosphere for the first time in history. It launched a helicopter. It collected rock samples that are intended for eventual return to Earth, the first samples ever collected on another planet for that purpose. But before any of that could happen, before any discovery could be made, any sample collected, any data transmitted, Perseverance had to survive the landing, and then survive the night, and then survive the dust, and then do all of it again, the next day, and the next for years. The story of what Perseverance has found on Mars is extraordinary, but it's inseparable from the story of what it takes to keep a machine alive long enough to find it. And that story starts with a single question every Mars engineer has to answer before anything else. How do you keep electronics warm when the temperature drops 100 degrees in a matter of hours? Perseverance doesn't run on solar panels. That's the first surprise for most people. Its predecessors, Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity's early design concepts relied on solar power, which meant reduced capability during dust storms and Martian winter. Perseverance uses a multi-mission radioisotope thermoelectric generator, or MMRTG, a nuclear power source. Inside the MMRTG is about 4.8 kilograms of plutonium-238, a radioactive isotope that generates heat as it decays. That heat is converted directly into electricity through thermoelectric generators. No moving parts, no solar panels required. The system produces about 110 watts of electrical power continuously, day and night, regardless of dust or season. And critically, the heat it generates, roughly 2,000 watts of thermal energy, is piped through the rover's body to keep its electronics and instruments within operating temperature. This is what gets Perseverance through those -80-degree nights. Not a heater that switches on, not a battery system that could drain. A continuous, reliable flow of thermal energy from a nuclear source that will keep producing heat for decades. The MMRTG is the heartbeat of the rover. Everything else depends on it, but power and heat are only the beginning. Because Mars has another weapon it deploys against surface spacecraft, one that's more patient, more pervasive, and harder to engineer around than the cold. Martian dust is everywhere. It's fine, particles a fraction of the width of a human hair, and it's electrostatically charged, which means it clings to surfaces, solar panels, camera lenses, instrument covers. The Mars exploration rover's Spirit and Opportunity both experienced gradual power loss as dust accumulated on their solar arrays. Opportunity's mission ultimately ended in 2018 when a planet-wide dust storm blocked sunlight for months, draining its batteries beyond recovery. Perseverance's nuclear power source means it doesn't face the same existential threat from dust accumulation on solar panels. But dust still matters. It coats camera lenses, reducing image quality. It settles on the rover's body, affecting thermal management. And during dust storm season, it dramatically reduces visibility, limiting the rover's ability to navigate safely and the team's ability to plan drives from orbital imagery. Managing dust isn't a solved problem. It's an ongoing operational challenge that the team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena factors into every decision about when to drive, when to conduct science, and when to simply wait. But here's what's really interesting. Perseverance brought something to Mars that changed the entire calculus of surface exploration. And its survival in the Martian environment was itself one of the mission's most significant engineering achievements. Ingenuity. A small helicopter, about 1.8 kilograms, attached to Perseverance's belly when it landed. Ingenuity was a technology demonstration, an experiment to see whether powered flight was even possible in an atmosphere 1% as dense as Earth's. The engineers who built it weren't sure it would work. Mars's thin atmosphere means a helicopter needs to spin its blades much faster than on Earth to generate lift, about 2,400 revolutions per minute versus roughly 500 for a typical Earth helicopter. It worked. Ingenuity made its first flight on April 19, 2021, hovering about 3 meters above the Jezero Crater floor. It has since made over 70 flights, covering distances of up to 1 kilometer in a single sortie, scouting terrain ahead of Perseverance that ground cameras couldn't see. It survived Martian nights using a small solar panel and internal heater to keep its electronics from freezing. It was designed for 5 flights. It flew over 70, and what it showed, from the air, looking down on a crater that was once a lake, connects directly to the biggest question Perseverance is there to answer. Jezero Crater was chosen as Perseverance's landing site for a specific reason. Approximately 3.5 to 3.9 billion years ago, during a period called the Noachian era, Mars was a different world. It had liquid water on its surface. Rivers carved channels into its rock. Lakes filled craters. Jezero was one of those lakes, a body of water roughly 45 kilometers across, fed by at least one river delta visible in orbital imagery to this day as a fan-shaped formation of ancient sedimentary rock. Where there was water, there may have been life. That's the hypothesis driving Perseverance's science. Not complex life, not fish or plants, but microbial life, the kind that emerged on Earth within a few 100 million years of liquid water becoming available. If Mars had liquid water for hundreds of millions of years, and if life emerges wherever conditions allow, then Jezero Crater's ancient lakebed sediments are among the most promising places in the solar system to look for biosignatures, chemical or structural traces that life once existed there. Perseverance carries an instrument called Sherlock, scanning habitable environments with Raman and luminescence for organics and chemicals, specifically designed to detect organic molecules and minerals associated with biological processes. It also carries PyXL, an X-ray fluorescence spectrometer that maps elemental composition at fine scales, able to detect patterns in rock chemistry that might indicate past biological activity. By early 2024, Perseverance had collected 23 rock core samples from the Jezero floor and delta, carefully sealed in titanium tubes and cached on the surface for future retrieval. These samples include materials from the ancient lake sediments, exactly the kind of rock most likely to preserve biosignatures if any ever existed. Scientists think the results from analyzing those samples in Earth laboratories will be transformative, not necessarily because they'll confirm life, they may not, but because they'll give us the most detailed chemical portrait of ancient Mars ever assembled. The question of whether Mars was ever inhabited may not be answerable from rover data alone, but those 23 tubes of Martian rock sitting in a cache on the floor of Jezero Crater might contain the answer. And here's the part that changes everything, because getting them back to Earth is the next chapter of this story, and it's one of the most ambitious things NASA has ever attempted. Mars sample return is not a single mission. It's a campaign, a multi-agency, multi-launch effort involving NASA and the European Space Agency that would retrieve Perseverance's cached samples and bring them to Earth for analysis. The plan, as currently envisioned, involves launching a sample retrieval lander to Mars, carrying a small rocket, the Mars Ascent Vehicle, and a fetch rover. The fetch rover would collect Perseverance's cached tubes, transfer them to the Ascent Vehicle, which would launch them into Mars orbit. An Earth return orbiter, built by ESA, would capture the samples in orbit, seal them in a containment system, and return them to Earth for a landing in the Utah desert, targeted for the early 2000s and 30s, though the timeline has faced significant budgetary and technical challenges. If it succeeds, it will be the first time material from another planet has been deliberately collected and returned to Earth. The samples will be analyzed in laboratories capable of precision that no rover instrument can match, looking for biosignatures, measuring isotope ratios, dating the rocks with methods unavailable on Mars, building a chemical history of Jezero Crater that could answer questions about Mars's past that we haven't yet thought to ask. The cost and complexity of Mars sample return has generated significant debate within NASA and the planetary science community. In 2024, NASA announced it was reviewing the mission architecture to find more cost-effective approaches after independent assessments suggested the original plan had become prohibitively expensive. The mission's future is not yet settled, but the samples are there. 23 cores of ancient Martian rock cached on the surface of Jezero Crater, waiting. Perseverance put them there, surviving cold and dust and radiation, and the vast operational challenges of working a robot on another planet. And whatever path Mars sample return ultimately takes, those samples represent the most carefully selected and documented collection of extraterrestrial material ever assembled. Whether they contain traces of ancient life, evidence of habitability without life, or something entirely unexpected, they will tell us something fundamental about whether Earth is typical or exceptional. Whether life, given the right conditions, is a near inevitability, or whether what happened here was a rare and perhaps singular event in the history of the universe. So here is where we started. -80 degrees Celsius every night for over 1,000 nights. Perseverance survives it the same way it survives everything else on Mars, through engineering that anticipated the problem before the rover ever left Earth, and through a team at JPL that monitors every temperature reading, every power level, every system status, every day from 225 million kilometers away. But survival was never the point. Survival was the precondition. The point is the delta, the ancient lakebed, the sedimentary rock laid down when Mars had rivers and lakes and possibly the conditions for life. The 23 titanium tubes sitting on the crater floor, each one containing a core of rock that hasn't been touched since Mars was a wet world billions of years ago. We sent a rover to Mars not to see if it could survive, though that was never guaranteed, but because there are questions about life and planets and the history of our solar system that only Mars can answer. And the only way to ask those questions was to build something tough enough, smart enough, and well-powered enough to last long enough to ask them. Perseverance has done that. It's still doing it. And somewhere in those cached samples, or in the rocks it hasn't reached yet, further up the delta, higher on the crater rim, the answer to one of the oldest questions humans have ever asked might be waiting. Are we alone? We built a robot to go and look. That feels like exactly the right response to the question. Here's what I want to ask you. If Mars sample return succeeds and those 23 samples make it back to Earth, what result do you think would be more significant? Finding definitive evidence that life once existed on Mars, or finding that Mars had all the right conditions for life and it never emerged anyway? Because both answers are profound, but in completely different directions. One tells us life is common. The other tells us something about Earth and us that's almost harder to process. Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to follow this to its natural next question, what a crewed mission to Mars would actually look like, and what it would take to keep humans alive there, not just a rover, that's exactly where the next video is going. See you there.